So Tyson Fury has entered the fray for this heavyweight division. It puts Wilder in a very sticky situation because when it comes to Fury now, I mean he's kind of in a no-win situation because if he beats Fury, Fury's rebuttal will be, I've been pretty inactive. I thought I'll give it a go. Clearly, I've come back too soon. I'll come back again, 3 or 4 fights down the line, and I'll beat him this time. That will be Fury's sort of get out clause. Or worst case scenario for Wilder is Fury beats him, and Fury will basically say, with hardly any activity, I've managed to beat this champion who's been champion for what 3 or 4 years now. I'm assuming he'll probably outpoint him, for 12 rounds, outbox this guy. So where does Wilder get his credibility from this? I mean, what he would need to do is beat an informed Fury. So we need Fury looking good. There's no point blowing away Fury in the first 1 or 2 rounds because that ain't gonna prove shit. All it's gonna do is just highlight the fact that Fury should not have been in the ring and he's nowhere near that because no one has done that to Fury before. As good as Wilder is, I mean, I shit on this guy for the fact that he's a shit boxer, but you know, in the heavyweight division that we're in now, yes, he is in the upper echelons. He shouldn't be if we was basing it on the history of boxing. He should be nowhere near it. But with what we have now, he is in the upper echelons. I give him that. He has got, fantastic power, which is what he relies on heavily. That's going to get him out of a lot of trouble. And if he knocked out Fury, first few rounds, that doesn't really prove anything. All it does is they both got paid. Fury's got a little bit more money bank, same with Wilder, and it doesn't address the question still of the fact that Wilder's resume is shit. It's a padded resume where, the first sort of half of his career, well, definitely the very first sort of quarter, it was just blown up cruiserweights. And then he went through the gears, but never really stepping up. He's fighting guys who had, several losses on their cards and were just basically cannon fodder for him just to sort of breeze through. And that's as much as the cult of the LDBC try and say otherwise, that is the main issue with a lot of sort of boxing sort of purists and fans who don't really rate Wilder. They're not sort of fully gassed by the fact that he can knock someone out relatively with one punch. They're not that impressed by that. Yes, it's a great tool to have. Yes, it makes him very dangerous, and obviously it's made him competitive. But we want to see boxing fundamentals. And, Wilder's attitude to that is, fuck skills. Pretty much paraphrasing him, fuck skills. He's got this right hand and it's a gift from God. And that's what's going to lead him to unification. And it shouldn't be because it kind of makes a mockery of everybody out there that is working on their fundamentals to try and become a better boxer. But, back to sort of the Fury sort of scenario is he needs Fury to look good in that fight, take him into deep water, 9, 10, 11 rounds. And then I imagine if he beats Fury, it's going to be by knockout and then knock him out. And if Fury looked good doing it and Wilder looked good sort of countering that and managed to go toe to toe with who is arguably the best technical boxer, when he was at his healthiest heavyweight, then it will look good for Wilder. But more than likely, it's probably not going to work out that way. Um, if there was a fight tomorrow, I'll side with Wilder just based on Fury's lack of activity, and his last fight wasn't even a tune-up fight; it was an exhibition. It was a fucking. If I paid to watch that, I would have been fuming. Um, but it was an exhibition. He he's not where he needs to be right now, and I would like for him to get a couple more belts. Sorry, a couple more fights under his belt before he looked to pursue Wilder. But it's interesting because actually, at first I was thinking, well, this is why would Fury want to take this fight? But it's very clever of Fury because I don't like Fury. I respect him. I respect the skills that he has, but I actually don't like him. I've looked at his resume prior to beating Klitschko. I've never really been impressed with anyone that he's beaten. He's beaten Chisora twice. The first fight with Chisora was a tough fight. The second fight, Chisora was not fucking interested. Um, and then I'm really struggling to think of who else he's fought off the top of my head without having to refer to BoxRec. You know, he had a good night against Klitschko. He had a plan. The psychological warfare before they even got in the ring had obviously paid off. And I think Klitschko was kind of confused and he didn't let his hands go and he got out boxed for 12 rounds. It was, a really boring affair. Maybe for the pure boxing purists, they might have enjoyed it. But, as much as I appreciate good sort of ring IQ and boxing fundamentals and strategy and whatnot, I still want to see explosiveness. I still want to see, high tempo, sort of unpredictability, from both fighters. That's the sort of heavyweight fight that I want to see, because that heavyweight division, you don't really have much room for mistakes. So it's very high stakes. You know, at the lower weights, you can probably get away with being, you can probably get away with trading. To get three in, you'll take two. That's a very dangerous strategy to have at the heavyweight spectrum, because they're just so heavy-handed, and you're not going to be able to sort of trade off like that. So I don't know if Fury's being really clever, because part of me's thinking is Wilder waiting for the WBC to order the Brazil fight as a mandatory, so that he can turn around and say, "See, I tried to make the Fury fight. I wanted to make the Fury fight. We both wanted it to be made, but the WBC have ordered me, so therefore I cannot take it now." That's the cynic in me thinking, is this sort of a ruse between the two of them? But I was thinking, what's in it for Fury for doing that? That doesn't make sense. But it just I sort of just clocked over the sort of the last day or so that Fury's actually is being really clever in a way he's approached the media at this moment in time, poo-pooing Joshua, as he always has done anyway, because everyone at the heavyweight division or has some sort of dog in that division is jealous of Joshua. 100%. I've got a video up about it, mainly aimed at Wilder and the Wildettes, but everyone at heavyweight division who's in and around a title is jealous of Joshua. They're jealous of the fact that he's been bold, he's been brave, and he's been rewarded for his bravery. As much as these fucking LDBC sort of cultists will tell you that Joshua's a coward, if anything, his actions have showed he is the opposite of a coward. And this is the thing: is I judge people by their actions. I don't judge people by their words. Wilder has been saying for years, he promises. I'm going to unify. I'm going to do this. I'm going to fight Povetkin. I'm going to fight Ortiz. I'm going to fight Fury. I'm going to fight Joshua. I'll fight what? He ain't doing any of that shit. He's just interested in holding that belt for as long as he can, padding his record, and getting to this ridiculous notion that 51-0 is going to cement him as a sort of a Hall of Famer. Nah, I don't think so. But anyhow, back to Fury. Fury is thinking, by saying that Finkel and Heyman and everyone else in the Wilder camp is great to work with, they're fantastic. We've not had any problems. This fight's basically done. It's gonna get wrapped up. He's actually put Wilder in a situation where Wilder can't actually turn around and not do this fight. Think about it. If Fury is saying that all is well, negotiations are running smoothly, it's a great loving, we want to make the fight, both fighters want it, I'm a man of my word, Wilder's a man of his word. He's put Wilder in a situation where Wilder can't turn around now and say, well, I can't fight Fury now because he wants too much money, or it's not going to generate as much, or the terms ain't right, or he wants to fight in the UK and I want to fight in the US. Fury has effectively said, whatever you want. He has nothing to offer, so quite rightly, he can't be that demanding. But he's got these invisible belts, which a lot of people seem to hold stock in, and that's basically all he's got to sell. And he's put Wilder in a position where Wilder cannot now turn around and not fight him. He can't have an excuse now. What excuse is he going to have? Fury has basically put out there that all is well and we're 99% there and the fight's going to be remade. It's backed Wilder and his team into a corner. Now the WBC can come to the rescue now. And that's where the cynic in me will be like, oh, great. So Wilder knew this was coming. He's got a heads up and he's trying to, again, give his fans the indication that I want to make these fights, but for whatever reason, I can't make these fights. And don't you find it very suspicious? And this is for these fucking LDBC idiots who keep going on about the fact that Joshua doesn't want this fight. Have you looked at the history of maybe the last 10 or so fights of the smoothness in which these fights get made? When Joshua makes a fight, sometimes it just comes from nowhere. It's literally like the Parker fight. It came from nowhere. We didn't hear anything. We just got I got a notification on my phone popped up. Joshua versus Parker on such and such date. Wow. Of course there was mumblings that it was going to happen, but it just happened like that. Literally, overnight, fight was made. The Pulev fight, where obviously Takam eventually took the fight, that was made relatively easily. The Povetkin fight, even after Povetkin has been effectively been on standby waiting for this whole Wilder Joshua debacle to come to an end, once that was done and set aside, and clearly that wasn't going to get made because Wilder doesn't want to fight him, that fight was made easy. All of his fights get made easy. You never heard of any mumblings from any other fighter that he's fought of late that this fight just wasn't going to get made. Now, look at Wilder's setup. Literally, for years now, he's had problems making fights. Some of them are his fault, some of them ain't his fault. But this guy he can't have bad luck all the time. He hides behind, oh, this guy was on drugs. Povetkin didn't fail a drug test. It's proven by a US court. He was within the legal limits and he ran on the first flight back from Russia because you didn't want to face him. You were dragged there, you lost the purse bid, you clearly didn't want to make this fight. You begrudgingly had to go because obviously you didn't want to vacate your belt. So he was like, fuck it. And that sliver of opportunity to get out of that fight, he took it. He jumped to the first plane, economy class probably, and he was fucking gone. And then from the US, mouthing off about how this guy's a drug cheat. And it turned out he wasn't. He was within the legal limits and the fight should have gone ahead. And that's why he's lost out, I think, on about 5 mil because of that. And that's proven by US court. So you can't turn around and say, oh, there's favoritism there. His own countrymen have decided that he was in the wrong in this instance. Now, I think that's still sort of going on, but as it stands at this moment in time, he was in the wrong. The fight should have gone through, and it would have been interesting to see because Povetkin's probably got the best resume in the heavyweights division, hands down, even better than Joshua's. Mainly because obviously his age and his longevity, but he's only lost to Klitschko and he's beaten everybody else. And he's a very game fighter, and it's not going to be an easy fight for for Joshua. I mean, part of me thinks if Joshua goes aggressive at very early on and uses his youthfulness and his athleticismness and his power, he should be able to smother him and take him out. Or at the latter end, the dangerous parts are going to be in the middle rounds where Povetkin's still got a bit of energy about him. He's still got those deadly hooks. He still can get in and underneath Joshua, and that's where he's going to be most dangerous. So I think either end, very early on or very late on, I think Joshua it's got the best chance. But in the middle stages is where he's got to be very careful. But Fury, back to Fury, he's been very smart. It's very smart because he has nothing to offer apart from these invisible belts, and it's hilarious. These LDBC minions who are now saying, oh, this is the best fight. Because these very same people were saying 50-50 or nothing. Fuck out of here. 50-50 or nothing. They weren't saying 50-50 or nothing, or we will go and fight Fury. That wasn't even an option. In fact, if someone said, well, why don't you fight Fury first before you face Joshua? They would have said, oh, Fury's washed up. He's a crackhead. He's overweight. He's inactive. Why are we going to fight him? But as soon as the Joshua has, strategically said, well, fuck you, I'm gonna fight somebody else, now Fury is the best thing that could have happened. In all reality, it's a big fight, don't get me wrong, but it's just a name. It's literally a name for a CV. And I want to see this fight because it's about time now Wilder started adding names onto his resume. Like big names. Fury would be a big name. There'll be an asterisk next to it in terms of Fury if he loses by basically saying he was inactive. But nevertheless, the history books will show he beat Tyson Fury if he beats him. And I suspect he will do if they was to fight now. I don't know how Fury's going to look. I think it's December that they're sort of mooting the date. Maybe he can squeeze another fight or two in between then. But if he's anywhere near how his last fight was, he's gonna get smoked in that Wilder fight. Um, so I want to see a fit, healthy, on form Fury take on Wilder, and then we can start saying, right, you're taking risks. You fought legitimate fighters. You've taken somebody's who's of championship ilk. Let's see you do that again. And that's what he should be doing. He should have been cleaning up this division at the age that he's at, for as long as he's been fighting, for as long as he's been the WBC champion. He hasn't done that. That is my main issue with him. But Fury, he's now made it very interesting in terms of he's given Wilder and Joshua options now. I think Fury, it's very important for America that Wilder beats Fury. The reason being is that the likelihood who is the next American up and coming fighter who's likely to go on to become a world champion? I don't see anyone at this moment in time that is ready to take Wilder's sort of position. Whereas in the UK, we've got obviously Joshua, we've got Fury, looking vying to come back. We've got White under there, sort of bubbling away. We've got three potential sort of champions there. Well, okay, one's already champion. We've got three potential belt holders there. And obviously, we've got a couple of younger guys that are looking to come up. I know Joe Joyce isn't young, but he's young in his sort of career. He's very game at this moment in time. He's calling out Ortiz. And again, you got these Americans say, Ortiz is the second best fighter in the division, which he fucking isn't. Just on paper, he isn't. I'm not saying he's not a nice fighter, but he's who has he got? Tell me the best three fighters he's beaten. You can't. You can't. Probably Jennings is the one you're going to come back with. And what has Jennings achieved in his career? Not much. Take Jennings aside, he's not really fought anybody of high caliber. He just hasn't. So stop hiding behind this this boogeyman tag that's been labelled. Who I think, in fact, it was Fury that probably gave him that title because he's not the second best in the division. But Fury, Joshua, and probably White, who just probably a tear down from the UK side, have an opportunity to put a stranglehold on the heavyweight division. So from the Americans who are now sort of revitalized in this division because of Joshua, in spite of what Wilder has done, it's because of Joshua that the heavyweight division has been reignited. Because these fuckwits who are putting out videos, under the LDBC banner, this fucking cancer, where was they when Wilder was fighting in some car park on the 12th floor in front of 200 people? Where were they? None of them were jumping on here afterwards saying, this guy's going to be a world beater. He's going to win world champions. He's the greatest ever. He's the baddest. But no one was saying that. They only became interested where Joshua came on the scene. And you know why? Deep down, they wish that their fighter was of the caliber of Joshua. It's just jealousy. He looks good. He can sell in terms of sort of across multiple demographics. You know, he speaks very well. He's very smart. I think he's a very good boxer, and he looks the part. And he's been very clever with how he's molded himself. And it's not luck. It's not luck. It was being brave that put him in that position. When he beat White, which was a UK grudge match, it was a big fight for him. That was when he finally moved up to the next levels. Then he took on Martin, which, we know what happened there. He blew him away. But when the announcement came for Joshua to face Klitschko, I was thinking, this is too soon. This guy is, he's still at no, it's not quite a prospect now, but he's still at that growing stage. In my opinion, he was what, 18, 19 fights in, and I was thinking he needs a couple more of the fights that he's gone and taken on since then, but he needed them first before Klitschko. But obviously, bearing in mind that Klitschko was older, this is an opportunity for him to face him before he retires, and he took it. And fortune favors the brave, and Joshua was brave. Whereas on the flip side, Wilder, after collecting his WBC 33 fights in, was a baby in Finkel's terms, um, which is why he wasn't going to fight Klitschko. Because Wilder just likes to talk the talk. He likes to talk, promise, talking first person perspective, third person perspective, brings God into it even. But ultimately, he doesn't do what he says. Because if that was the case, he would have cleaned up the division by now. He would have taken out some big names, and his resume would not be an issue. We'll be talking about this guy as beating everybody. He's just got to face Joshua, who's ducking him because he doesn't want to fight him. Then I would say, yeah, you got a point. But no. And Fury is sort of lurking there in the background. I want him to get fit. I want him to get healthy. I want him to get back to how he was, because that fight between Joshua, hopefully, fingers crossed, he beats Wilder beforehand, and he's the unified champion. That fight with Fury could go on to be a trilogy. Obviously depending on how the results pan out, and that would be a huge fight, and it'd be great to have that fight, beamed around the world, but with a UK focus. That would be great. That would be me being greedy, but from a boxing fan perspective, Joshua and Wilder need to fight. You know, as much as the LDBC sort of cultists and other regular boxing fans may go back and forth, everybody's in agreement. That's the fight that they want to see for sure. Because let's be honest, if Joshua beats Wilder, most of these guys are going to fuck off. They're going to jump onto another fighter, whether it's Spence or the Charlos, whatever. Wilder's dead to them. They'll move on to somebody else because he's no longer this guy anymore. He's lost. He's damaged goods. He's no good anymore. He's not the baddest man on the planet. He lied to us. They'll fuck off. And that is what Wilder is most fearful of, which is the reason why he's effectively been delaying, taking any sort of risk. And now the walls are closing in around him. He has to take these big fights now. He's running out of excuses. Joshua doesn't. Joshua can fight him whenever he wants to fight him. I want him to fight him next, obviously after Povetkin. But why should he be fighting on Wilder's terms? He's done all the heavy lifting. He's collected all the belts. It should be in the UK. Now, if Fury loses to Wilder, then I would be in agreement that Wilder brings a little bit more to the table, because that should bump up the PPV numbers. That should bump up the interest in terms of getting bums on seats in whichever arena that this fight is taking place in, because he's gone and beaten someone legitimate, and that maybe then, even though Fury isn't that big in the US, maybe then that will start getting some of the more casual boxing fans a little bit more interest in supporting Wilder, because they haven't supported Wilder up to date. They just haven't. I'm arguing with some of these people about viewing numbers. I'm like, the UK fights are in the afternoon in some states in America. People are fucking work. You can't compare that to a prime time fight on a major broadcasting channel. That doesn't make sense. But they don't get it. They just say, "Oh well, Joshua already did 500,000 and Wilder did 1,000,000." I'm like, okay. It's interesting that Showtime are showing Joshua's fights in America, because they don't show Wilder fights here in the UK. They don't. No one's buying the rights to show his fights here. You're gonna have to catch that online. So why is that not judged the same? But that's neither here or there. Fury's back. He poses an interesting sort of dilemma. He's put Wilder in a position where he's gonna have to sort of save face and take the Fury fight. He'll probably win that, but Fury's got a ready-made answer, and that's why I'm a bit hesitant for that fight to take place now. But in all, I'm hesitant for that fight to take now. But Wilder needs names on his resume, and this is a good opportunity for him to do that in terms of Fury. But we'll see how that pans out.